Mr. Keneally, would you please invite our special guest to join these proceedings?
Yes.
I'm just looking at number.
On May 8th, 2020, Chief Justice Gantz began our virtual sit-in with a tribute to Justice Lenk. On the occasion of our final sit-in, he stated that his brief remarks would not replace the more formal ode to be held sometime in the post-pandemic future. Here we are again. Justice Lenk's final sit-in. With the assistance of two extremely devoted and hardworking members of the SJC family, our great clerk, Fran Keneally, and the wonderful Rebecca Grieber, we are delighted to be joined by our special guests. I have to admit that I do not recognize any of you. Some worked for Justice Lenk before I joined the court. Others have a distinctly different, well-rested appearance. But I thought it fitted to invite Justice Lenk's clerks because one of the defining characteristics of the Lenk chambers is the way she mentored her clerks. As you have all gone out to practice law, I'm sure that you are guided by her passion for justice and her quest to get it right. So welcome. When receiving a Justice Lenk opinion upon circulation day, other justices could be assured of three things. First, the opinion was thoroughly researched with no stone left unturned. To include legislative history, as you all know, is Justice Lenk's white whale. Also include social science, and sometimes we were treated to the infamous Justice Lenk 50-state survey footnote. Second, the opinion followed a logical progression that seamlessly flowed from paragraph to paragraph until the conclusion appeared self-evident. And third, and I think her most notable trait from my perspective, is Justice Lenk's opinions were written with intellectual honesty. They pulled no punches and yet were faithful to the law. Her opinions, as you all know, frequently included pithy,
Harvard, by the way, is what she's doing in her camera.
memorable phrases intended to catch the reader's attention and encapsulate the holding. Here are a few of Justice Lenk's greatest hits. In describing a stock sale provision, she wrote, "Given the trial testimony and documentary evidence, the judge did not err in concluding that the foundation had a reasonable expectation that would share in the eventual profits from the sale before the proverbial 12th of never." In describing a series of break-ins committed while on probation, Justice Lenk remarked, "While his acts were chutzpah on stilts, I am constrained to agree with the defendant that our jurisprudence requires suppression." In her poll camera recent case, she said, "Even the prototypical nosy neighbor, Gladys Kravitz from the 1960s television show Bewitched, however, occasionally put down her binoculars and abandoned her post at the window to eat and sleep." In sentencing a substance abuse defendant, she told us to be mindful that judges have to steer carefully between cilia and Charybdis when sentencing such a defendant. Addressing good faith, this is an appeals court decision, addressing good faith non-investigatory reasons that might cause a police officer to seek entry into a home for a quote unquote limited purpose, she remarked, "In my view, this is a worrisome prospect, the proverbial camel's nose under the tent that will erode the warrant requirement." And sorry, Justice Cipher, In Commonwealth versus LaRose, discussing the fog lines statute, she wrote, discussing an opinion that I joined. Of course, this interpretation would be absurd, but its silliness only demonstrates that the language of the first clause cannot be construed in such a literal or narrow manner. In describing testimony that a police officer had, they smelled a strong odor of unburnt marijuana, sufficient to deem it more than an ounce. She noted, in sum, we are not confident, at least on this record, that a human nose can discern reliably the presence of a criminal amount of marijuana as distinct from amount subject only to a civil fine. Last year in the Halaki decision, she discussed the remedy provision and said, regarding Professor Halaki, whether she wishes to start again, whether she even could start again after so much time has passed and a faculty position has been lost, whether she wishes to use the money to fund different research or others' research in the same field, or whether she wishes to hike the Appalachian Trail, these matters are none of our concern. And then finally, a land use case involving title interest, she wrote, or she held, we affirm that portion of the judgment declaring that the Nortons do not have a title interest in the beach as it exists today, since their title interest is to a beach now submerged under the Atlantic Ocean. The next time we sit as a full court, this will be a different SJC. By then, with the consent of the Governor's Council, we'll be led by a new Chief Justice and joined by either one or two new justices. After serving on this court for a few years, I've come to appreciate how each former justice leaves a legacy that strengthens this great institution. For example, the court continues to be influenced by Justice Spina's decency, continues to be influenced by Justice Hines's moral compass. Of course, as we all know, as we all carry in our hearts, we are reminded of beloved Chief Justice Gantz, who we know fought for the little guy and brought out the best in all of us. Justice Lenk's contributions are every much as impactful as these and will be long remembered. She taught us to never settle for easy answers, that the solution to complex problems is to roll up your sleeves and dig even deeper. And lastly, to strive for excellence. For that, Justice Lenk, we are very grateful and we wish you well in your retirement. Now I'd ask all the law clerks, and we have the baby here too, I'll ask all the law clerks to please unmute your microphones and give Justice Lenk a rousing round of applause. And we wish the law clerks a fond adieu, and we will now call the case.